For those of you that don't know, Pendo has a few core values that we like to operate off of. My favorite is be direct and transparent. However, for our product team, it is often show me the data, which is why today's presentation from our team is show me the data, using product analytics to build a winning product experience. Today, we are joined by Mei Luo, a senior product manager, and Stephanie Liu, who is a product marketing manager. And without further ado, Mei and Stephanie.
Hey everyone, hope you guys have all been enjoying Pendomonium in person, enjoying all the good food and all the good sessions you've been attending, learning new use cases, talking to people. Just a quick housekeeping thing, if you guys can't hear us, just raise your hands, but can everyone hear me okay? Thumbs up? Okay, great. Today we'll be talking to you a little bit about what it takes to create a winning product experience and the analytics, both quantitative as well as qualitative, to really build an experience that is both engaging and that delights users. I'm Stephanie, and I'm a product marketing manager here at Pendo. In my former life, I used to be a data analyst, running SQL queries, building databases and dashboards. So I think it's safe to say that I do have a soft spot for data analytics and kind of know the joys and perils of building a dashboard that really matters.
Yeah, and I'm Mei, and hopefully I've met some of you over there at the analytics booth earlier today, but I'm a PM here at Pendo, in charge of all things analytics here. So prior to Pendo, I actually worked at Optimizely. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but it's an A/B testing tool, experimentation. I actually know a couple of former Optonauts in the audience there, so shout out if you guys are sitting there. Before that, I was also, like Steph, similarly a data analyst. And basically kind of my entire career so far has been helping companies to democratize their data and make data-driven decisions.
Great. So on the agenda today, we'll first talk about what it really takes to make a winning product experience, some of the key principles that we like to think about at Pendo, and how do we incorporate those principles as we think about building, iterating on a product. The next piece, the meaty part, Mei will walk through a very recent example for which we essentially sunsetted, eliminated a feature. And sometimes when we think about building a great experience, we add features. But in this case, we'll be talking about the process, the analytics, the data she sought in order to properly sunset a feature, in this case, trends. And then finally, we'll close at the very end with a little sneak peek into what's to come with product analytics, a bit about the roadmap, and as well as a couple of the key themes that will be important for the next coming quarters. So what truly makes a winning product experience? I think for product builders, product users, even product marketers like myself, we often think about a great in-app experience as one that is delightful, it's seamless, it's easy to use, it adds value. Because ultimately, we use products because they make our lives easier, they add value in some way, shape, or form. And I think that most people can think of great product experiences in their daily lives, whether it's at home or in the office. Perhaps Slack or even Zoom come to mind in the office because they've become completely ubiquitous in this day and age of COVID. On the consumer side, of course, social media platforms, or if you're a music lover, perhaps Spotify. But of course, there's also the ever-famous iPhone. And the iPhone is something that I think I can probably count on both of my hands the number of people who've never experienced or never used or have never touched the iPhone. It's completely prevalent in every situation. I think friends, family, all have touched the iPhone. And why is that? It is a very elegant product. I think most people would agree that it's easy to use. Even my grandparents can use it day to day. I want to tell you a short story about the iPhone. When the iPhone first came out in 2008, there was one single button at the bottom of that screen, the home button. It was essentially a catch-all button, a button that took you home wherever you were within the phone, and that was it. It was an important button because it essentially, for a new phone that was mostly screen and not so many buttons, it was important to have something that brought people to a grounding place. Now fast forward to a couple years back, when the iPhone X came out. At this point, that button was taken away from the iPhone. It must have been a kind of a jarring experience and kind of confusing for something that was so impactful, something that felt like second nature. They decided to take that button away. Now, some people might think that they took the button away to get a little bit more real estate, a little bit more screen, or perhaps there were some mechanical issues that came from users around the button not always working perfectly. But ultimately, they took away the button because it was redundant. And how might you think this was redundant? Well, at this point, the iPhone was in the hands of the public for many, many years. The concept of what we call a home place where all apps lived was very familiar to many folks. And this concept really translated not just to iPhone users, but to Android users and to Windows users. And so this use of a button kind of became redundant. It was no longer necessary, and therefore they decided to take that away. And so when we think about these principles, it really brings to mind one important principle of a winning product experience, and that is less. This is for effect. But better. And so what this means is being really deliberate, intentional about keeping the features that matter, getting rid of the ones that don't, and making the ones that you keep better. It's about being choiceful, not just about the quantity of the features within your app, but also the quality of those features as well. So in this next part, we'll be talking about how we took this principle into sunsetting trends, which is was just a feature within our product analytics product. But first, I want to provide a little context and ground folks in our product family, Pendo Engage. Some of you are probably already quite familiar with this, but it consists of 3 areas. Analytics, to really track how users are behaving within the product, and a lot of this is quantitative data, but also how users feel about a product, things like NPS and et cetera. Then we have in-app guides. These are different guides that really help personalize the experience and solve for key use cases like onboarding and et cetera. And finally, feedback. Feedback is where we capture, prioritize user needs, and eventually circulate this into future roadmap decisions. And this is important because from the perspective of the process that we undertook to sunset trends, we use all these 3 parts of Pendo Engage to really do that effectively. And now I'll pass it on to Mei to talk about the process she undertook to sunset trends.
Awesome. Thank you, Steph, for setting that up. So Steph talked a little bit before about how feature sunsets are about retiring features, right? But it's also very much about innovation, and that it gives us the opportunity to invest in some new areas in the product. So while the bulk of today's talk will be about how we use feedback, guidance, and analytics to really provide a seamless sunset experience for trends, we're going to be able to give you, towards the end, like a 5-10 minute sneak preview into our analytics roadmap in the next year, and particularly how this particular sunset has given us the opportunity to really deliver on some great innovation in the next fiscal year. So let's get right into it. What is trends? What is the sunset? Why do I care? Why did we decide to do it? Just a show of hands here, how many of you are familiar with our trends product? Okay. So we're going to wipe your memory after today because we're sunsetting it and we don't want you to remember this. But trends is exactly as the name implies. So it's basically a data visualization tool. It allows you to visualize things like sets of pages, features, track events over a period of time. So you can look at activity like number of visitors, number of accounts, number of clicks. Pretty straightforward, right? And then about a year and a half ago, we released this thing called Data Explorer. Now, Data Explorer, and you can even tell from these two images here, they look pretty similar, right? So, and the matter of fact is, you can actually do some of the things that you do in Trends within Data Explorer. So some of that feature set overlaps. The only thing is, Data Explorer is a lot more powerful. So you can see additional visualization, so you can do this nice comparison between line graphs here, but you can also do things like bar graphs, you can do pie charts, etc. But we also have added new capabilities, things like being able to group by different pieces of metadata that you have within your product that you send to Pendo. You can also create things called draft segments, which are temporary segments that you don't want to save. If you're looking to explore around in your data and just put in a quick query, you can just create a segment on the fly. And then lastly, it also includes up to 10 comparisons. So you can compare up to 10 features, track events, and pages. So this is all great, right? But why did we actually decide to sunset it? And I just mentioned one reason there, if you caught it. And first reason is the feature set was very much overlapping, right? You could do the things that you do in Trends in Data Explorer. That was reason number one. Reason number two, and this is a little bit of Pendoception here. We're actually using Data Explorer to visualize the usage of Data Explorer versus Trends. And when we looked at Data Explorer usage since its release, we saw that there were a lot more visitors who were going to Data Explorer, running queries, and saving reports as compared to Trends. Trends, on the other hand, had remained consistently low. So far, we have feature set is overlapping, and there's relatively low usage within Trends. And the third reason, probably the most compelling reason of all, was when we looked at the maintenance costs associated with keeping up Trends on the engineering end, we found that we were getting about one low severity bug per sprint in the last year for Trends. And that was an indicator for us, like, hey, we need to go in there and check out what is happening to Trends. Is there something we should be focused on? Are there usability issues? We really need to double down on it. And normally we would, except we kind of did this cost-benefit analysis and said, we're spending all this time. We have to have one engineer go out and interrupt their day and take them away from feature work so that they can look at Trends. And yet, there are so few visitors and users using it. I mean, I only saw a handful of hands in the crowd when I asked who's familiar with Trends. So clearly, our time is better spent elsewhere. And so with all three of these reasons, we decided it was time to sunset Trends. And there was virtually, I'd say, no resistance internally. Our go-to-market teams are very happy about it, particularly on the overlapping features front. You can imagine it's very hard to talk about two different feature sets and trying to explain to customers, hey, you can actually use either one of these. It's totally fine. I'm not sure if there are specific use cases for one or another. So it simplified our narrative, right, when we were selling our product. But as we all know, people who've been on the receiving end of feature sunsets, or maybe you've even led one yourself, internal approval is worth nothing, right? That's not enough of a go-ahead to actually push forward. So what we really needed to know was customer sentiment. How did they actually feel about this feature sunset? And a show of hands here, how many of us have actually been through or felt a botched feature sunset before? Yeah, it's lots. And you remember that, right? That pain, it's painful. And we don't want that. We don't want you to be surprised. We don't want anyone to be caught off guard. By the time we actually flip the switch on this thing, we need our customers to feel like they're ready to move on. They're ready to leave Trends behind and move on to bigger and better things in Data Explorer. So in order to do that, we really need this trifecta of feedback, analytics, and guides to provide a really seamless experience so that our customers are prepared to move on. So if you're zoning out right now, because I know it's 4 o'clock and at the end of the day, and you're looking forward to the beer garden, if you take nothing away from this talk, it's that we need to make sure that we have an open avenue of communication for our customers and that you build a plan that is flexible enough to accommodate that feedback. And you need to be able to shift your plan if something unexpected comes up in the form of feedback. So that's definitely something you should remember. But let's get into the specifics of Trends. So how do you actually sunset a product? And when you do the sunset, there are really two main groups of people that you should care about. One, the people who maybe have never used your feature or don't even know it exists. Two, which is the reverse, the people who actually are heavily dependent on this feature. Now, addressing that first group of users, so that people who are not familiar with this particular feature or who may not even know that it exists, is easy. For us, what we did was we set up a segment inside of Pendo, and we said, hey, give me a list of all of the customers who have never even opened Trends or who have never saved a Trends report. And for those users, we're going to let them know we're sunsetting it and that they'll lose access. That was easy, right? These people are not going to put up any resistance. They're totally fine. They've been living well enough without it. Now, the second group of users, the ones that have become very heavily dependent, those are the ones that require a very intensive exercise, and it needs a lot of hand-holding. And that's where kind of the three areas that Steph mentioned before comes in. So step number one, the first thing we did was to kind of give our customers a gentle reminder. We didn't want to kind of rain down the hammer and say, hey, we're sunsetting this next week, good luck, figure it out. We put up a guide on the Trends page. So anytime anyone went into Trends, it would say, hey, Data Explorer is actually replacing Trends. So why don't you head on over to Data Explorer, check it out. And once you clicked on it, it would redirect our users to Data Explorer. Now, in Data Explorer, we hit them with a second guide. And this second guide, the entire purpose of this one was to really get our customers acquainted with it, right? And so we set up a walkthrough guide that helped our customers build their first query. So at the end of this walkthrough guide, they would have outputted a chart, and it was their first insight outside of, or inside of Data Explorer. And it helped them to really get acquainted with it so that by the time, again, when we did the sunset, they could be like, oh yeah, I've used Data Explorer before. I know this thing, and I know how to build a query. And the whole purpose of these guides is we wanted to start a slow shift in behavior, right? We wanted our users to stop going to Trends and start slowly migrating to Data Explorer and starting to build their queries and save their reports. And of course, we had our analytics in the background tracking this behavior the entire time. We wanted to validate that, hey, these guides are actually working and people are doing the thing that they want. So here's another Data Explorer report where we compare Trends and Data Explorer and that same save report usage and page views. And you see this line right in the middle of the chart is where we decided to launch the guides and also remove Trends from the nav. And obviously, it did exactly as we expected. We saw the decrease in Trends usage and save reports, and we saw the reverse in Data Explorer. So that was a really good validation point, and it kept us on our toes. Like, hey, the things that we're doing are actually working, and we should keep doing it. Now, the last piece, which is feedback, which I think is almost the most important of all when it comes to sunsets, is we had an always-on feedback option. So we allowed our customers throughout the feature sunset announcement to put in and escalate any concerns. And it's important for a couple of reasons, but as PMs, obviously, before we start to do any kind of research or start feature development, we want to make sure we identify any blockers, right? And any edge cases that we might not have thought of. Well, most of the time, we try our best, but we never hit 100% of different edge cases. So it's important then, while you're doing it, that you allot yourself the opportunity to get any incoming feedback and really reveal those blockers and unknowns that you might not have seen before. So this is really where it pays off to be super flexible and allowing yourself to pivot your plan depending on the feedback that you get and the types of validation that you get throughout that. And in one example, we actually had a couple of customers put in feedback that says, and we totally missed this in the first round, but they said, hey, we actually use Trends to compare data across multiple years. And it wasn't just one customer who said it, it was a decent amount. And so we said, hey, these customers are not going to move to Data Explorer if we don't give them the ability to query over multiple years. And there was a reason why we had imposed a limit within Data Explorer to start with. It was a performance concern about a year ago, but that was no longer the case. And so we actually made the change pretty quickly and resolved that customer concern. And everyone was happy, and they said, okay, I feel good now. I'm going to go try out Data Explorer. So again, it's really this trifecta of feedback, analytics, and in-app guides that really help you to provide that seamless experience. But even though this particular example was about a trend sunset. It really goes for any kind of feature development, right? We need to make sure that our qualitative and quantitative feedback is heard throughout the development cycle, and that we're allowing ourselves to allowing that to invalidate any decisions we make, and allowing ourselves the flexibility to pivot our plan as necessary. And that's what we've been doing for trends. We've just been pivoting, depending on the feedback we get, until we reached a point where we felt like our customers were comfortable and we've addressed any major risks. So I think I lured a bunch of people over here before to tell them that we're going to be giving you a sneak preview on the roadmap. And this is it, right? This is like that end credit scene in the Marvel movies. This is good. You're going to want to see this. So what's coming in product analytics? And if you've been sitting here for the last 20 minutes and you're going, oh my God, Pendo's just killing features left and right, like they're not giving us anything back in return, like rest assured, we're actually going to give you something way better than trends. So what's coming in product analytics? So we're removing trends, but we're really focusing our innovation and focusing our engineering investments into really bettering the analytics roadmap in the next year. One thing, a theme that we're really working with is ensuring our customers can continue telling your data stories seamlessly inside of Pendo. So whether you have this ginormous, nebulous, vague question that you have, or you have a very specific question about feature adoption, we want you to come into Pendo, be able to do any kind of flexible data transformations within a centralized analytics UI, and with ease spit out an insight that you can use and then share as a narrative to your stakeholders or to your teams. So we're investing, again, heavily in flexible data transformations and in more intuitive and a centralized analytics UI. And when we talk about flexibility, surprise, we actually see Data Explorer again, right? We're actually focusing a lot of our energy in making Data Explorer better, in fact, making it the analytics hub. So we want you to take the data that you need and get it in any form that you want. And so starting next year, we'll be investing heavily in this particular product and including additional capabilities like expanded metrics. So right now you get a list of different metrics that you can visualize your data by in Data Explorer. We're opening up the ability for you to develop custom metrics. So things like fractions, for instance, that are very specific to organization that maybe no one else uses. You'll be able to do things like that. Things like time on page, an assortment of different metrics. And then we'll also be pulling in additional data sources. So all the other data sources that you see within the app, things like pull results, time on page, guide events, NPS, all of that should be able to be funneled into Data Explorer and that you can query off of and do all the slicing and dicing that you need. And lastly, we'll be expanding the capacity limit, so allowing you to query larger buckets of data while you're trying to tell your story. So truly, this is us trying to take all the different data sources that we have spread out through the app and just put it in a single interface and allowing you to do whatever you want with it. Second piece, and this is very much related, is we're going to make Data Explorer as our central analysis interface. So what that means is that Data Explorer is now going to be able to produce charts that are glass boxes and not black boxes, and that you can unpack it and figure out exactly how it's built, what the definitions are, how it's outputted, and then maybe you can change a couple of parameters and then modify it to produce a whole new chart altogether. And we want that entire journey to be seamless so that you can zoom in and zoom out of your data sets at ease and at will. And then the last piece that I'm super excited about is Pendo-generated actionable insights. And this is a new area of proactive insights that we're venturing in. We obviously today continue to collect a ton of retroactive analytics, and we have all this data. Well, now we're going to do that work for you so that you don't have to put in a ton of manual effort to get the data that you need. So we'll be exploring things like giving you projected trends. Maybe you care about a particular feature and how it's doing, and maybe we're like, hey, it's actually dropping for the last couple of weeks, and we anticipate that will hit a particular point. So us being able to pull those deeper insights out for you without you having to do a ton of work. So that was kind of the sneak preview. I hope that was exciting for everybody, and I hope that was worth your time. But you can find me after, or me and Steph later will hang out by the analytics booth at Pendo Park. We'd love to chat with you more about either feature sunsets or any of our roadmap for the next year. But thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.